Bum bum ba bum 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 ba bum 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 ba bum bum ba. Are you ready to defend Deutschland? Not in this video, but in World War Mode, coming shortly to a War Thunder near you. Enjoy your pay-to-win bias in an event that I have had my doubts about in the past, but every time, absolutely every time I've played World War Mode, I've had an absolute blast. And credit where credit is due. First off, I wouldn't even have gotten into it if it wasn't for my fams. So thank you to you guys. Your enthusiasm is the reason that I even tried, and I've had more fun playing with you guys in World War Mode when I get the chance than I could even say. And gosh, it just really feels awesome to have these amazing friends and mentors around me. That is Fam Squadron. We are always recruiting because we are a tiny squadron, and our goal is to be the friendliest squadron in War Thunder. We are not really competitive. We like to have a good time together, and we all hang out on the Toshio Thunder Discord, link in the description below. And it's pertinent, I tell you, it's pertinent. Now, this is a tank that I don't play very often, and I'm really starting to change my mind on 8.0 Thunder. I used to think that this was an unfun way to play the game. The BR compression seems pretty bad, but at the same time, only the Russian premium vehicles or event vehicles are completely bullshit when it comes to their armor, and even that can be overcome. And everything else is mostly a point-and-click adventure. And then there's this guy, an 8.0 medium tank, in air quotes, with near SPAA levels of gun traverse and no stabilizer. And is that, yes, an oscillating turret with a bustle autoloader. Sorry, not a bustle autoloader, a revolving autoloader. Yeah, that's what we'll call it. And a beautiful shot, if I say so myself. Another one, and you can even machine gun those ATGMs out of the sky, just in case you were wondering. A third heat round in 15 seconds flat. That is a 5-second autoloader reload rate in an American tank. Great fun indeed. Now, if I could remember the name of this thing, that would be even more helpful, but I do remember that this was actually the last tank that I ever unlocked in World of Tanks, and it was not nearly as satisfying to play there. Now, you can see we're set up in a sniping position, and I will get into some replays later in this video, according to the format that I've been running with lately, and I've really been enjoying that. Now, normally, these would be 2 or 3 individual videos, but I'm just so crunched for time right now that it really saves me a lot of time editing and rendering if I just make triple length videos. Ma'am, I assure you, all of our bags are double strength. You ever hear that line in the grocery store? I think I've heard it. I've actually heard it like 2 or 3 times, but I mock it constantly. When you ask someone to double bag your groceries, and they give the response that they were told to give you. Sir, ma'am, all of our bags are double strength. Blammo. But guess what? That's a lie. It's just because they don't want to give people extra plastic bags, because plastic bags are not free. In fact, I live in a land where you get charged for using plastic bags, unless you're shopping at Walmart. Because Walmart's always an exception. The country is run by Walmart. The government is run by McDonald's and Walmart. And there you go. BS armor every now and then does not bounce my heat FS, and then it chunks straight through, except when it doesn't. Object 279 going up to an 8.7 battle rating, but not yet as of the making of this film. And whatever this tank is, I can't remember the name right now. I'll remember the name after I play it a few more times. Actually reasonably survivable, if not only against early ATGMs launched from helicopters and controlled by mouse aim, whereas the same equivalent fired from a tank is controlled via the old WASDs. Consistency for the win. Yeah, it is what it is. In any event, I was going to say, you can see we're set up here as a sniper, and that really is where I've had the best luck with this vehicle the few times that I've played it. It doesn't have the reliable armor to be a brawler like most tanks at this tier. It does have fantastic firepower, but with your heat FS shell being ordinarily the most reliable, it suffers from the issues that you normally get with heat FS in the game, often getting detonated by grass, sometimes being absorbed by spaced armor, and the like. The AP DS round is not terrible, but you do miss those fins against sloped armor, which you're going to face quite a bit. Decent number of kills, and I am happy, because my real goal was to jump into another meme machine. And we're off. Or, you know what? Maybe this one. The B-57. America, according to our doctrines, is fantastic at bombing things. You may have noticed. There's no way to get debt forgiveness for our student loans because we're far too busy spending billions of dollars dropping a high explosive on someone else's country. Thank you very much. America, we haven't been invaded since the War of 1812, but we have been the one penetrating other people's borders. Ooh woo. And the B-57, with its bomber sight in the game, is able to drop bombs with extreme levels of accuracy. Yes, they're still falling toward that radar-guided Oh, there. We got him. And here you thought the Shilka would have the advantage. If you suspect that the reason I'm sharing this clip with you is just for that kill, then you're absolutely right. The B-57 might not quite be a meta vehicle, but it just might, especially in very skilled hands. If you're wondering whose hands those are, you might want to check Hunter. He is extremely good with this jet, and that's the reason that I decided to give the old Sky Whale Mark jet a chance, and it does not disappoint. One of the things about close air support and air combat in tank RB matches is that you will often find yourself facing off against other aircraft that are far, far below your battle rating. And in that situation, the B-57 is an absolute monster with enough speed and maneuverability to dance on enemy props if you use your energy correctly, and actually fairly effective gun power if not positioned in the best parts of the wings, and God knows why. I mean, you'd figure you could find some space around the cockpit for all of the machine guns, but yeah, I guess spaced out way far in the wings is what they were hoping for, and that's exactly what you get with the B-57. the Brits liked to mount cannons in a little ween pod under the fuselage, and that seems to work out pretty well, but under cockpit guns are really tricky for me to aim, and you see that when I'm playing this little fella right here, Sid German Seahawk Mark 100, which I have had an absolute blast in. It really feels like a baby Reaper Meteor F Mark 8, and that is not a bad thing by any means. Hearing cannon fire, those are 30 millimeter defas at the hands, no, in the nose of this French boy. In fact, the kosher Israeli Vulture, which actually, now that I mention it, vultures are not kosher animals, in case you were wondering if carrion birds would be halal. No. But I suppose there's an exception for steel birds. And stealing the show now, Colonel Hogan in America's finest light tank mark whatever. The M what's it, A whatever. Sorry if I get them confused all the time. M2A4, something like that. But the American model designation system is notoriously overpopulated anyway, so I'm not the only person getting confused between these vehicle names, and they're all generally cut from the same cloth. You have more machine guns than at all necessary, but for the memes, lad, for the memes. The 37mm AP cannon that does not detonate ammo racks, as you saw, and yet has a fantastic fire rate, decent armor pen for its tier, and did I mention a fantastic fire rate? Which can really do a lot for you, along with the short-stop stabilizer, one plain gun stabilization, gyroscopically realized, as we do a quick cut there. And you're going to see, again, a few cuts in the video, as usual. I really would love to spend more time talking about these replays, but the concessions I make. And now I think it's a little bit more story time. So enjoy Colonel Hogan as he goes ham from this very good position. We've seen this spot a few times being used by Visky, I can remember, in his BMP, and quite a few people. I actually tend to avoid the spot, as it's, even though you have some cover with those rocks, it's a little bit more exposed than I would prefer, and I like to pick a spot where you can shut down one area of the map and only really have to be aware of sort of one lane, you know what I'm saying? One-way traffic, if it were. But I was going to tell you about my day, because I know you're all curious. But before I do that, let me get another little sip of my wine water here. It's mostly water with a little bit of wine, poured over Kittimer semi-precious stones. That's a joke. I was just listening to what's his name, the Ghostbusters guy, that's really into ghosts and aliens and whatnot. Maybe I'll talk about my view on aliens sometime. But I got another thing to talk about today, so that'll be another. You have to ask me. Tell me to do a video where I talk about my view on aliens, because I don't know. It's one of those things that a lot of people don't think about all that deeply. But the more I think about the things that are clearly said in the Bible about literal, by definition, extraterrestrials, we're talking about angels here, and the descriptions of people that have had encounters with what they describe as extraterrestrials, things start to add up. And because I am a fanatic Christian, it's very easy for me to believe the biblical account about things like extraterrestrials. That's a talk for another time. Let me get a little sip of my wine water here. I'm doing what I can to prevent dehydration, and thus the alcohol. The alcohol content of this drink is extremely low. It's mostly water, but I'm trying to drink some red wine for my health on a fairly consistent basis. It's super good for your heart and probably your other organs as well. I don't know, but maybe I'm just a huge fan. Anyway, what was I going to tell you guys about today other than I mowed a lawn today. I went out and I finished mowing my grandpa's lawn. He has a house that he doesn't live in, but he still keeps it in nice condition, and he's something of a hoarder. He has it full of like newspapers and canned food and all kinds of fun semi-useless trash that you might need if the Chinese invade, because keep in mind, this was a man who lived through the Japanese occupation of the Philippines as a child, hiding out in the jungle and getting berry. So, yeah, you could call him a hoarder, or you could just call him someone who's very aware of the fact that stuff is not always readily available, and the cockeyed Kanonenwagen takes its first victims as... Who is this other than replenishment of the first stage ammo stowage? I can't see a name, War Thunder. Fix your shit. It's QWERTY's, of course. This is a video that QWERTY sent in a while back, and I'm very happy to share it with you all now. The Kanonenjagdpanzer is an odd duck for sure, and I suspect it was intended to have more significant frontal armor, but all it has is what was on the very, very peculiar, very cancelled prototype. This is an event vehicle at, I think, 8.3 that has, well, probably the best firepower overall of any vehicle in the game, all things considered, if you can get your guns on target. And here, I thought this thing was awkward and difficult to aim, and then I bought the STRV 103-0, and I fell in love and hate at the same time. But I was going to tell you about mowing lawns, and why? Because making friends is a beautiful thing. Allow me to elucidate. I finished mowing my grandpa's lawn, and it's kind of a big job for a small, house, because he lives in a swampy area, and so the ground is always wet. It's fantastic for the grass, it's good for the lilies, and it's good for the weeds, and he has those in spades. So I did some mowing, I did some cutting back of blackberries and brush that was growing up. I even trimmed the hedges a little bit, and I talked to him about his neighbor, because his neighbor has blackberries that are sort of overgrowing her yard, and he told me, don't talk to the neighbor lady, she's crazy. So I went and talked to her, and it turns out that she's a lovely little old lady, and 69, 68, something like that, a nice age. But she was rightfully very nervous about coronavirus, because she is undergoing cancer treatments. So I talked with her from a very safe distance and found out that she was just a delightful little lady, and my grandpa had problems with her because, as I mentioned, she had she's working on a wall of blackberries that's starting to push over the fence between their two yards. And this is a little old lady who's going through cancer treatments. So, first off, you have no money when you're going through cancer treatments, because this is America and we can't even afford to die. And on top of that, there's a whole lot less physical activity you can do when you're going through cancer treatments. And on the day when my grandpa, who he's a great guy, but he's also kind of a doofus. He might be autistic. He tends to repeat thoughts inside of his own head repeatedly and constantly, and you can tell because he does the same thing out loud. And he was talking to her about the wall of weeds, and she had a broken foot at the time when he was just constantly nagging her. So I'm starting to think that she wasn't crazy at all. Anyway, I've got another lawnscaping gig to do, and I'll definitely do that one on the cheap, as I usually do, just because I love the exercise. And now, speaking of on the cheap, here's another replay brought to you by Visky in the BMP Germany. The German BMP. Das Deutsches Volkes BMP, if I'm not mistaken. And a whole break brings him his first kill, a missile racking in a second, and the quick load on APHE gets him a third in a ridiculously short amount of time. Welcome to the action, welcome to the replay, and as always, I'm happy to show off my friends' replays in these videos. I've got lots of replays from people like Quirties and Tiny German, who is now known as what was the name? Some anime girl or something. But yes, a fellow man of culture. And Visky does send in a number of replays as well, but he always sends me the best. So I'm always happy to see another Visky replay. Was that a Sherman Jumbo? Not quite sure if that was a 76 of some stripe or a jumbo. All we got was the booty. Looks like a jumbo 76 and looks like an ATGM and a Heat FS anti-tank grenade take down the American World War II heavy medium tank. Things that make you go, I'm not one to hope to see the game balanced by era, because there was never any such thing as a fair fight in actual warfare. I think it was Sun Tzu who said, you like my pronunciation? Yeah, it's probably still off. Sun Chan. But in The Art of War, he said something along the lines of, never engage in a fair fight. And I completely agree with that sentiment. In fact, that's exactly what I try to bring into my War Thunder strategies. Whenever I would make excuses for what a bad dogfighter I was, because I was pretty trash at dogfighting for a long time, my answer was always, well, I just try to never engage in a fair fight. And as an American pilot in War Thunder, you have that opportunity fairly often in their fantastic boom and zoom aircraft. I still think that a lot of American airplanes have an incredible potential to punch above their weight when it comes to battle ratings, if you have the opportunity to play them the way they are played best. But often the meta of War Thunder and things like team support require you to play them a little bit differently than the absolute optimum playstyle, because if everybody side climbs, then nobody side climbs. You know what I'm saying? Like, they know where you are. People can spot the dot. And maybe that's another issue. What does that have to do with the German BMP? God if I know. And the invisible dirt eats that Heat FS round, but the ATGM second punch does the job. And the fantastic reload on the cannon for the BMP as well as the ATGM really show off the incredible offensive power of this IFV. And that's another thing with War Thunder. The game tends to be very generous to IFVs when it comes to battle rating. They really could stand to face higher battle rating opponents because of their fantastic offensive power, but then they'd be a little bit less competitive. You know, it really feels in War Thunder, this is something that I've been sort of musing on, so perhaps join me, if you will, in this just sort of a thought experiment. And the idea is, what if some, let me put it this way, what if most vehicles in War Thunder were significantly less competitive? Just for the sake of, I don't know, giving you maybe more of a sense of pride and accomplishment when you take down a foe hitting above your weight class. Also, putting vehicles more into their historical matches, where if you're in an IFV, you might feel like you have a chance against an enemy MBT sometimes, but you also might wet yourself a little bit. That doesn't really seem to be the case very much. In fact, IFV pilots in the game of War Thunder have every reason to be confident in the offensive potential of their vehicles, and with teammates and terrain being the best armor in their defensive capabilities as well when played correctly. You know, come on, can you get him? Oh, it's so close! It's so close! It's still just not quite. Risky moves and paying the price, and yet respawning in Lord Arado. So what if vehicles really were put into, let's not call it historical matchmaker, but more of a realistic battle rating system, where things like IFVs and light tanks and scout tanks are put closer to their historical matchups, and the trade-off could be that they would have drastically reduced spawn point cost, to the point where they really feel like cannon fodder. I think that could be interesting, just to have even more of a cannon fodder tier in War Thunder. It's so profitable to spawn in an SPAA, even as a first or second spawn, especially honestly as a second spawn, because then you can usually get into something really good for your third spawn if that first one didn't work out. But what if that was the experience with something like a light tank, where if you really accomplish anything with a scout or a light tank, and it really will be against the odds many times, then the trade-off is so significant because it costs you so little to get into them. That could be interesting. I don't think that it would make for the most balanced gameplay experience, but I don't know. Maybe for an event or something. I suppose those kinds of things show up in Sim, but you don't really get the compensation that you would want for using a less competitive vehicle in the form of, let's say, significantly reduced spawn point cost. And I guess in the end, it would just work into the cheesing system the way, is he getting the kill? No, it's really easy to overshoot a bomb when you're coming from above someone that's hiding behind cover like that. So I fall victim to that mentality quite a bit as well. The feeling like I need to drop the load even if it doesn't have the best chance at hitting. And the match is over. So it really was Visky's only shot. But an incredible 10 kills, a very fun match, And as usual, I said almost nothing about it. Anyway, guys, it's been a great time sharing some time with you tonight, and I am getting pretty tired. So, it's time for me to go. But won't you be my neighbor next time for little talks here in War Thunder? Hope to see you in the next video. Bye-bye.